trying to come to terms with what it is that they are going through, but it's impossible for any of them to fathom because less than a week ago, this idea that Russia
Yeah, they didn't think they would actually attack.
was something that they never thought was going to happen, and now all of a sudden they're refugees.
Arwa Damon reporting for us from the scene. We'll get back to you. Thank you very much. Let's discuss what's going on with the Ukrainian ambassador to the United States, Oksana Markarova. Ambassador, thank you so much.
I have this other coverage muted on my computer from
Ukraine right now, and as you know, we're seeing these massive explosions in your
I don't know his name
tonight. After Ukraine was
here, you can listen.
Hold off the Russians from Kyiv at least last night, are you expecting an all-out Russian assault?
Apparently.
Well, yeah, thank you for having me here, and thank you for spreading the truth about what's going on. And as we speak, you're right, there is a massive assault on Kyiv, but on other cities as well. So we are preparing for this night, but as the 3 nights before, we are very resolute to defend our country, and there will be next day tomorrow, and Ukraine will continue defending itself.
I'm sure you will. What are you hearing, Ambassador?
I'm sharing this out to my Twitter.
Your leadership by the government in Kyiv, the Ukrainian leadership, about the current battle.
Well, there are reports about heavy assaults in Vasilkiv. It's a small town, a suburb of Kyiv. Also, there are sounds in Kyiv. Of course, we will have more information later on as the situation is evolving now. But again, it's not something new. This war, the full-fledged war that Russia started in Ukraine, is going on for the past 3 days. And we see that they're targeting not only
Why can't my
military,
tweet
as they,
send?
lie publicly on the Russian TV, but essentially targeting many civilian objects.
Can you hear when I was sharing that to Twitter or not?
Just simple apartment buildings. I mean, it's horrifying.
President Zelensky, your president, says that Ukrainians are never going to give up. Is Ukrainian resolve only strengthening right now amid this massive Russian attack?
Yeah.
I have to tell you, that the spirit in Ukraine is very strong.
They think they can just come in and take over their country. They're not going to allow that.
Anyone. We did everything possible during the past 8 years after Russia attacked us in 2014 and illegally occupied Crimea and some parts of Donetsk and Lugansk. Even though we had all the legal rights to return them, we never planned any offensives, and we only used diplomatic tools together with the United States and all of our friends and allies to restore our territorial integrity again peacefully. But we don't have any other home. We will defend this one. So you see that it's not only the president who is courageously staying in Kyiv with our people. It's not only government. It's not only armed forces who we adore and respect. It's not only police and everyone else, but ordinary Ukrainians who went organized through territorial defense, but just on the streets, stopping the enemy. We all are defending our home.
Ambassador, are you getting all the support you need right now from the U.S. and the other Western allies?
We are getting a lot. I'm very pleased that now, unlike in 2014, we have very strong anti-war coalition, and that U.S. is showing exemplary leadership in this process. It's now,
Can you hear okay?
That support us. We're getting a lot of the support, but of course we need more. We are defending from the enemy, which is much larger and with much larger military. So we need additional support, of course.
Ambassador Oksana Markarova, thank you so much for joining us. We'll stay in very close touch with you, and we'll certainly continue this conversation. Appreciate it very much. Good luck to you and all the people of Ukraine. We're going to have a much closer look at Vladimir Putin's outrageous claims that his invasion of Ukraine is being launched to, in his words, denazify the country.
That's a bunch of fucking bullshit. The president of Ukraine is Jewish.
Or treating your chronic migraine. 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more. You're not the only
Let's see what
one
Lookner's saying right now.
Botox.
And Wolf was telling me not to yell at my broadcast or use bad language. All right, let's see. How do I unmute this?
all the people whining in the chat about how they said it before. And whining that I don't have 50 eyes so that I can read every message while I'm doing 30 other things. We said that. We told you 10 minutes ago. I told you that before. I told you it before. I said that to you.
Well, he's getting annoyed.
Ooh, this is interesting. I haven't seen this yet. Ilya Ponomarenko says this is in Kharkiv. There's been a lot of fighting in Kharkiv. We've seen some videos and heard reports of intense fighting in Kharkiv, up in the northeast of Ukraine. Kharkiv.
Where's Kharkiv?
Let me show
I
you
can't
this.
see it on that map.
Where did it go? Right here. Here. Ilya Ponomarenko, Kharkiv.
Ух ты, ёперный банан. Ух. Это там взрывается? Ну, запас. Да.
He might have deleted this. He might have deleted that. Did he delete it? He deleted it. It might not be Kharkiv. Maybe it was in vassal Kyiv.
There was a big explosion in Kiev that's like
Or did he repost
red
it?
and glowing and pulsating.
Oh no, he posted it. Here it is. Look, he says it's Kharkiv.
Ух ты, ёперный банан. Ух. Это там взрывается? Ну, запас.
Now I don't know. Maybe it's not Kharkiv. Maybe it's actually vassal Kyiv. I don't know. I can't confirm this. He says it's Kharkiv, and he knows about the bombing in vassal Kyiv. He says it's Kharkiv, but I can't be sure. It's quite wherever it is. It's quite the explosion.
Ух ты, ёперный банан. Ух. Это там взрывается? Ну, запас. Да. Ух ты, ёперный банан. Ух.
It's like 2:00 in the morning in Ukraine.
Where did he get that from? Did he get it on Telegram? Hold on. Let me see if I can find where it came from. Oh, I just saw an update about vassal Kyiv.
Where is vassal Kyiv?
UA Insider. The Telegram account Insider Ukraine News War says residents of Kyiv and the region are being told to close windows tightly, smoke and dangerous substances from a fire going in any direction. I can't confirm this. It sounds like maybe
there's
people
a
in the
fire
area
in
are being told to
Kiev.
close their windows because of the smoke
They
from
think
that
it
big
hit
oil
like a
fire in vassal
refinery or
Kyiv.
something.
Union has it too. Same thing.
Breaking news tonight, Sky
Union
near
said the same
Kyiv,
thing.
lighting up with explosions as Russian forces bring their invasion closer and closer to the capital. And Russian President Vladimir Putin is trying to justify his attack.
Yeah,
with
good luck
totally
with
outrageous
that.
lies, calling Ukrainian leaders Nazis. CNN's Brian Todd is working as part of the story for us. Brian, the term Nazi clearly resonates with some Russians.
It certainly does, Wolf. You know, analysts say Putin's got a clear calculation for repeatedly calling President Zelensky and his cabinet Nazis. But tonight, groups like the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum are calling the Russian president out on it. It's a repeated refrain from Vladimir Putin and his acolytes in describing Ukraine's democratically elected president, Volodymyr Zelensky, and Zelensky's cabinet.
This gang of drug addicts and neo-Nazis that has people.
Putin in
Putin could now take over power in Ukraine.
Putin has said he wants to, quote, denazify Ukraine. And he and his foreign minister have used another reference to the Holocaust to try to justify their aggression.
Zelensky is Jewish. He's not a Nazi.
Promoting genocide for ruling this country.
The false accusations of Nazism and genocide from Putin and his aides against the Zelensky government have drawn outrage. The U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum issuing a statement condemning that language as well as the invasion itself.
It's particularly perverse and denigrates and misappropriates the whole notion of the Holocaust to talk about the current democratic elected government somehow committing a genocide against Russian speakers.
Why has Putin invoked Nazism? Some observers say Putin is well aware that their fight against the Nazis and fascism in World War II strikes an emotional chord with Russians.
To evoke the very memory that the Russian people have of the horrors through which they went in World War II. They lost 20 million civilians.
Analysts say Putin's Nazi references here are not only inaccurate, but disturbingly ironic. But it's Putin, analysts say, who's fighting this war the way Hitler did when he invaded his neighbors, justifying it in part by implying that his neighbors' borders were irrelevant.
Ukraine has never had a consistent tradition of being a true nation.
That is straight out of Hitler's playbook, 1938, 1939, to claim that a democratic neighboring state is some kind of artificial creation that doesn't deserve to exist.
Another fact Putin seems to be conveniently ignoring, that Zelensky is Jewish, and he says his grandfather fought against the Nazis for the Soviets. One analyst believes Putin has another motive for his accusations of genocide against Ukraine's leaders.
I think it's very likely that he intends to use the genocide and denazification language to set up some kind of kangaroo court, which would serve the purpose of condemning these people to death or condemning them to prison or incarceration.
Stuart Eisenstadt of the Holocaust Memorial Museum says the Ukrainian people certainly will not buy Putin's claims of genocide and Nazism, and he doesn't believe the Russian people will buy it either. He believes many Russians will see that a fellow Slavic country that they share so many cultural and family ties with is being invaded and brutalized. Wolf?
Good point, Brian Todd reporting for us. Thank you very much. And to our viewers, thanks for watching. I'm Wolf Blitzer in the Situation Room. I'll be back Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern. CNN Newsroom with Pamela Brown starts right now.
Please, don't trust Putin. Don't believe Putin.
An apartment building damaged by what the foreign minister says was a Russian missile strike.
You can see the invasion that Russia is conducting of Ukrainian territory. More of its heavy equipment has been moving towards the front line.
Many people are trying to cross the border on foot, which would mean waiting outdoors in the frigid cold, most often with small children.
It's this hours-long, agonizing journey of having to say goodbye to everything that you have known.
Strange to see civilians picking up leftover armor from vehicles here. It shows you how many people are involved now on a local level in this war effort.
Using their own personal body to stop a moving tank.
Yes, I will go and fight, and I'm ready to die for my land, for future.
I think Europe should help us, and the whole world should help us. We should not be left alone with this.
It is 2 a.m. in the capital of Ukraine, and nearly 3 million people are bracing for attack. This is the view from Kyiv. In the right corner of your screen, a massive explosion on the outskirts of the city. One of at least two. The government is issuing dire warnings that Russian troops could launch a major military assault on the capital city any moment. And the White House and European Union announced a sharp new punishment for Russia a short time ago. Selected Russian banks, presumably tied to Vladimir Putin and his enablers, will be expelled from a vital banking system called SWIFT. This all adds to the global isolation of Putin's Russia. We're going to have more on that shortly, but first we have our correspondents and experts scattered across the region and the world to bring you all of the latest developments. Let's begin with CNN's Matthew Chance in Kyiv. Matthew, what is going on there? We're seeing the lights, the skies light up right behind you.
Yeah, but what's burning?
That's right, Pam. A very tense situation in the Ukrainian capital tonight, with the mayor of this city, Kyiv, warning that it could be yet another difficult night for the city and for the residents who are sort of bunkered down inside. Those lights that you can see right behind me here are the fires burning, lighting up the skies southwest of the city, near the region, or in the region of Vasil Kiev, which is about 30 kilometers, 20 miles or so from where I'm standing right now, in the heart of the Ukrainian capital. The reason it's significant is because there is a strategic airbase that we believe has been the target of Russian special forces to try and secure it, so they could bring in more supplies, more troops, more equipment, which would enable them to have a more effective assault on the city. It's been very hard for them to take control of it, and it's not clear whether they ever did, but we know there is fierce fighting around there right now. Within the past couple of hours, there have been two huge explosions that really rocked the city from that distance. You can see the aftermath of them still playing out right now. We believe those fires may have been caused by the fuel tanks at the airstrip, at the airbase, that seem to have caught fire, but obviously we don't have eyes on it, so that's just speculative. But nevertheless, that is just one aspect.
A gas
of
pipeline in
what is happening
Kharkiv,
right now.
unconfirmed.
The rest of the time, we've got
an
a
oil
really
depot
serious
in
situation
Vasil
in the
Kyiv.
country and in the city, with Russian forces now probing the city from various different directions. That's the southwest, and of course there are forces
What's he
in other
typing?
strategic locations to the north and to the northwest as well. And so, a really tense moment for the Ukrainian capital.
A gas pipeline and an oil
Incredibly, and
depot.
just so ominous given the warnings coming for the capital city that Russia is expected to launch an imminent attack. Of course, the aim is to take over the city. And you have been spending time with the civilians in Kyiv. What are you learning?
Yeah,
That Vladimir Putin's a fucking bastard.
They're obviously very anxious, but I've also been spending a lot of time throughout the course of the day with the defenders of the city, the civilians who have taken up arms and have dug themselves into positions to try and do whatever they can, potentially lay down their lives in the face of a concerted Russian attack. Take a look. These are Ukraine's civilian defenders, local residents taking up arms and ready to fight.
From Kyiv.
And that's his blood on the ground.
It's his blood.
Already, here in a suburb of the capital, Kyiv, there's been blood spilled.
One small bullet. My people was here and covered by this.
Deadly contact between these volunteers and Russian forces.
Oh, yeah. I've never been in there. I've never served in the army.
You've never served in the army? Volunteers like Yuri, who was an economic analyst, he tells me, before this Russian invasion made him a fighter. So you shot a gun in school, you work in an office, but now you're defending your country, your city.
Correct. I didn't think I would join this unit just 2 days ago. I thought that, I don't know how to handle guns. And yesterday it came to me that, Russians are in the city. I mean, it's close to the point that I have completely changed my mind, and I have decided that, I should do something about it.
Just hours before, this northern Kiev suburb of Obolon was the scene of firefights as Russian forces probe the Ukrainian capital. Now the entire city and its residents are bracing and preparing for more. There's petrol bombs.
Yeah.
There's your Molotov cocktails.
Yeah.
Show me. Покажи меня.
This is my javelin. This is what I have to use to stop the tank.
These are your Molotov cocktails, your petrol bombs.
Right. Yeah.
And you make these yourself?
No. The people from this building bring me this.
The people from the
from
local...
this building, they bring me this.
And they may be needed soon. Very soon. As we left the building, more shots.
Multiple rocket launcher TOS systems bombarding Ukraine.
Well, Pam, as a sign of just how tense and how concerned the authorities in Kiev are right now, there's been a curfew announced from earlier on today, and it won't be lifted until Monday morning. The reason for that, they say, is because they're expecting a Russian attack. They're putting out defences of the Ukrainian military and, of course, those civilian defenders as well. And they're warning the population that's left in the city that there could be Russian saboteurs, Russian forward parties, sort of probing into Kiev, which obviously will be a massive point of potential confrontation as the battle for this city looks poised to begin.
It certainly does, Matthew.
Thermobaric
Stay
weapons.
safe. On that note, thank you so much. And I'm going to take you back now to the moment that huge explosion lit up night sky to the southwest of Kyiv. Our Alex Marquardt.
What does TOS stand for in MLRS?
There are fears that the Russians could carry out a large-scale bombing campaign here in the Ukrainian capital. And just about 7 minutes ago, in southwest Kyiv, we could see from our vantage point and hear a
What do you mean wrong category?
So you can see what I'm seeing right now.
What category
again,
is it in?
In the southwest part of the capital. We heard a large blast.
What category is it in?
Since then, for the past 7-8 minutes, there
Candy
has been,
Crush.
this pulsing glow in the distance.
You're on Twitch. I have to go change that. Let me see if I can fix that.
Eerie scene. This city is right
because
now
I'm multicasting.
Completely quiet.
All right, let me see if I can fix that. Hold on a second.
So often, that silence is pierced by some sounds.
I'll be right back.
Or war, whether it's gunfire or thuds in the distance. This was an explosion that was relatively close by. We don't know what the target is, but that is the general direction. General location of Kyiv's.
Can I fix it if I'm already broadcasting?
It is a location that we've been looking at earlier.
Let me try.
Because there was a missile or a rocket that hit a residential building near that airport, and that was the main incident today. I would say it has been otherwise.
I can. All right, I'm going to try.
But now we are taking.
Thanks for telling me.
We are trying to get a sense of whether this bombing campaign by the Russians is going to happen tonight. We are bracing for that. The city is bracing for that. There is a curfew that is not just overnight, but it is a 48-hour-long curfew. The city has told its residents to stay inside when the air sirens go off, to go into the air shelters. And now I'm hearing something else in the distance. That sounded like gunfire. Sounds like thunder. There were 2 waves of that. So this could be the beginning of a significant aerial bombardment by Russia's forces on the Ukrainian capital.
Terrifying. Officials are also grappling with the aftermath of a Kyiv residential block struck by a missile or rocket overnight. CNN's chief international correspondent Clarissa Ward visited the scene near one of the capital's airports.
A man stands on his balcony, looking out at a new reality just hours after a missile slammed into his apartment building. It was 8 a.m. when the projectile hit, destroying parts of the 22nd and 23rd floors. According to Ukrainian authorities, 2 people were killed.
It has the right title, but it doesn't have the right category, and I don't know how to fix it.
Russia's Ministry of Defense claimed it was a Ukrainian anti-aircraft.
I'll try one more time.
Whoever was responsible, this is what happens when war comes to a major city. Homes and lives are destroyed. At the city's central train station, a frantic dash as people try to escape to the west of the country. Step back, the train conductor says. Step back. She tells the crowd to leave their bags to make room for more people.
So she's just said that women and children can get on the train now. You can see people pushing to get on. They've got their pets, they've got their babies, and they're trying to get on this train to get out of here.
Ukraine's railway services say they are evacuating 5,000 people a day. Every single space is precious. We will stand, this woman pleads. It's full, the conductor tells her. Inside the carriage, it's standing room only. A woman waves goodbye to her family. Who knows when she will be able to return? Her daughter, Tamara, has made the tough decision to stay behind.
For many people, it'll be hard to understand how brave you are to stay here and not to try to leave and get somewhere safe.
It's not a brave. You should just understand. It's my city, it's my hometown, it's my homeland, it's my country, and I'm not the one who should leave. The Russians are the one who should leave, and they would leave. I wouldn't leave this city because they are.
Do you think many people are like you and they're ready to do everything they can to get Russia out?
Okay,
I know.
I don't know how to fix it. Can you tell me? Because I just tried, and when I tried, you couldn't hear anything, right? It has the right title of the broadcast, but it doesn't have the right category, and I don't know how to fix it.
He kneels in front of it.
Yeah, the guy kneeled in front of a tank.
And for a brief moment he does, before the column pushes on towards the capital. Clarissa Ward, CNN, Kyiv.
We want to take a moment and
You want me to turn off Twitch and then change the category and then go back on Twitch? I could try that. Let me try that.
miles of northeast of Ukraine's capital, Ukrainian citizens are begging Russian soldiers to stop. They've even thrown bicycles in their path. Then, as you see, a man jumps onto one of the tanks. You can see him holding onto the barrel of
I'm going to try that.
Drives off, tries to physically hold it back. He then drops to his knees, bringing the tank to a dead halt and creating a standoff that seems suicidal. Bystanders hold him aside, and the Russian tanks lurch forward on their way. CNN has confirmed the authenticity and location of this video. We all have questions about the situation going on right now in Ukraine. Send me yours through Twitter and Instagram, and I'm going to try to pose them to the experts joining me tonight and tomorrow. Our breaking news coverage of the Russian invasion of Ukraine continues in just a moment. You're in the CNN Newsroom.
We need to reduce plastic waste in the environment.
That's why at America's beverage companies,
our bottles are made to be remade.
Not all plastic is the same.
We're carefully designing our bottles to be 100% recyclable, including the caps.
They're collected and separated from other plastics,
so they can be turned back into material that we use to make new bottles.
That completes the circle and reduces plastic waste.
Please help us get every bottle back.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I'm asking about Prevnar 20 because of the chance pneumococcal pneumonia could put me in the hospital.
If you're 65 or older, you may be at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Prevnar 20 is approved in adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with another pneumonia vaccine, ask your doctor if Prevnar 20 could help provide additional protection. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. The most common side effects were pain and swelling at the injection site, muscle pain, fatigue, headache, and joint pain.
I want to be able to keep my plans.
That's why I chose to get vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
Because just one dose could help protect me from pneumococcal pneumonia.
Ask your doctor or pharmacist about getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20 today.
When traders tell us...
Okay, I still don't know how to fix it.
We listen.
Could you hear when I was on the other screen?
This innovative?
And I'm going to turn Twitch back on, but I don't know how to fix it.
Thinkorswim by TD Ameritrade.
A loud scream.
Let me see what it says now.
And a deep gash. Furniture legs can scar your floors, costing you a lot of cash. Now there's Ruby Sliders, the new chair leg covers that protect your floors, prevent scratching, and slide with ease without all the noise. They fit snugly on both sides legs and glide across any floor. Now you can move even your largest furniture with no effort at all, keeping your floors looking beautiful for years, guaranteed. With Ruby Sliders, any furniture will slide and glide effortlessly. A heavy person in a chair can scratch up your floor, but even a child can push this large man.
It doesn't look like it worked. It doesn't look like it worked. Let me try it again. Multi-streaming. I'm going to disable it and I'm going to enable it again.
Look, we attach script to a Ruby
Why
slider
is it
on
saying
this
go
and
live?
oh,
Did the whole
sliders
broadcast crash?
Plus, they're ultra flexible and conform to most sizes. Fat legs, skinny legs, round or square. You'll love the universal fit. It even works on metal, so Ruby sliders are perfect for folding chairs when you have extra company.
Why is there only 4 seconds on there?
Tile, and more. Chair legs can mark up your cabinet bottoms, but Ruby sliders protect cabinets from scratches, all while keeping your chair legs free. Don't be fooled by cheap imitations that won't last or don't fit. Call or go online now to get Ruby sliders for as low as 99 cents with free shipping. And remember, red means they're authentic. Ruby sliders is guaranteed to last for 10 years or your money back. This offer is not available on Amazon, so call or click now to protect your floors for as low as 90.
Now it's saying it's streaming, but the light is red. Why is the light red?
That's 1-800-445-8129.
What is this doing? Now it says live. Okay, let's see. It says live, 0 viewers.
To find out how much it's worth.
What if I click to, what is, let me see.
And is connected to the nation's
I'm clicking play and nothing, let me
Find out
see.
how much your home is worth. For
I don't
free
hear
at
anything.
homelight.com today.
Okay, it says 1 viewer. Was that me? Wolfie wants to know why I'm yelling at my broadcast again. Could you still hear me when I was on the other screen?
A woman brushing glass from the windowsill, singing the Ukrainian national anthem. At the end there, she says, quote, "Long live Ukraine." Let's break down some of what we've been seeing going on visually, especially just in the last hour. We have seen these 2 explosions. I want to bring in CNN military analyst and retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Cedric Layton. So tell us, Colonel, what have we seen in the past hour?
So, Pamela, here's what we've been looking at.
Yeah, what's that?
Basically,
Oh, yeah, they hit gas tanks. That's what the fire at the airport was.
Have actually been down in this area, a little bit south of the city, in an airport that has a huge petroleum storage facility. Most airports have that because they have to refuel jets and other airplanes.
That's why they told people to close their windows.
And those explosions can be quite massive when they actually occur. And that's the kind of thing that would light up a sky, especially at nighttime, like you wouldn't believe. And those can be quite spectacular.
And do you see that as a precursor for potentially what is to come? The government is warning that there could be an imminent attack from the Russians over the next 24 hours and overnight there in Kyiv.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, that's always what they do. They will attack things like airports, train stations, potentially. Sometimes government buildings like the Ukrainian parliament is a possibility. These kinds of attacks are definitely part of a plan. In essence, what happens, Pam, is we have a wave of attacks that come forward during particular phases of the air campaign. And if this is an air campaign like most air campaigns, it's going to start with attacks on spectacular facilities such as airports, communication centers, factories, road junctions, bridges. All of these areas could absolutely be targeted in one of these campaigns.
So that's what you see happening potentially overnight with this imminent Russian attack that the government's worried about.
Absolutely, because when you go in, what you're doing is, in essence, you're preparing the way for the infantry to come in and take over the city. And when you do that, you use your air power to make those kinds of things happen. You want to attack all the major points. So you want to cut bridges. You want to make sure that any communications links are cut so that there can be no reinforcements to the city. Those are the kinds of things that you do, and you do it in such a way that you not only disorient your adversary, but you also make sure that they can't react to you in the time that they would need to in order to defend against your attack.
Yeah, blocking around the city. It reminds me of what Russia did with Berlin during World War II. Our CNN crew spotted something called a vacuum bomb launcher today near the border. What is that?
So what we have here, this is quite a spectacular piece of equipment, actually. It's a TOS-1. TOS-1 is the nomenclature for this. And what it does is it actually uses a weapon called a thermobaric bomb. So thermobaric bombs are used against fixed facilities. They're used against bunkers, against buildings, against trenches. It's not good in open air. It's not good when the weather is bad, but they are highly effective, highly dangerous, because what they end up doing is they end up sucking the air out of the atmosphere. And what they can do then is they can actually change everything that you would be able to do. You can't breathe properly, and in essence, you're asphyxiated.
That is beyond terrifying. So basically, you would not be able to breathe. You would just be suffocated if they were to utilize that.
That is correct.
Germany is now pledging weapons to Ukraine. What are they sending?
So they're sending 1,000 anti-tank weapons and 500 Stinger missiles. They're actually sending the anti-tank weapons called Panzerfaust in German nomenclature through a third country, the Netherlands. The Netherlands is got them from Germany originally, but Germany has to approve their further transfer to Ukraine. The Stinger missiles, also same type of situation. What they're doing is they're using those Stinger missiles to shoot down aircraft.
We have been receiving excellent viewer questions. One of the big questions we've been getting is, why aren't we, as in the U.S., sending in troops to help with Ukraine? Why aren't world leaders putting boots on the ground to help in Ukraine?
So this was one of the things that becomes really, really important from a political standpoint, because it's really popular pressure that will determine what political leaders do. Why aren't we doing this? Because right now the NATO treaty only governs NATO countries, and Article 5 of the NATO treaty, if a NATO country were to be attacked, would mean that we would go in and we would help that NATO country. However, Ukraine is not part of NATO, and that's really the reason that Russia gave for attacking Ukraine. They don't want Ukraine to be part of NATO, and they want to make sure that it stays that way, because they think that NATO is a threat to them. We, of course, see it completely differently, and if Russia were to pursue this kind of activity like they're doing in Ukraine against a NATO country, then it would be a completely different scenario, and you would see U.S. and other NATO country boots on the ground in that particular country. But right now, not in Ukraine. That could change, though.
That could change. And bottom line is, Russia is a nuclear power. And so a big question U.S. citizens have, that viewers of the show have had, is what is the concern for the U.S. right now?
So the concern for the
nuclear
US is,
war.
First of all, these kinds of things.
I'm not using OBS at the moment.
These kinds of events, if they occur in one place, especially one that is bordering
Can you hear it?
like this is, could spill over into those allied countries, which would then activate the NATO treaty. If that does happen, then you would again see the types of activities that would be associated with combat preparation, not just the deployments that we have had now, about 13 or 14,000 U.S. troops, extra troops to Europe, but you'd see a far more activity going toward Europe. The European nations would be ramping up their defensive capabilities, and that would be a completely different ballgame from what we're seeing right now. But this could be the start of something like that. We really shouldn't want that to go this way, but sometimes events have a way of spinning out of control, and we have to be very aware and very prepared for that.
Be prepared, but the bottom line is we just don't know at this point. But thank you so much for helping us understand the situation there on the ground in Ukraine, Cedric Layton. And we continue to watch the situation on the ground there as new explosions are reported near the capital. We're going to talk more about it just ahead.
Let me mute that one.
The fate of Ukraine is being decided right now.
We're covering this from all around the world. Stand by, Matthew.
There's been significant destruction here.
What was unimaginable is now reality. People fearful for their lives. They don't know what's next for them.
Consider what any of us would do in that situation.
Thanks for the reporting you are doing in Ukraine. It's important.
What is Looker saying? Wait a minute. What? Oh, he's playing a video.
Обещаю, блядь, после этой ебаной войны столкнуться на русском языке, блядь, с вами, нахуй.
NLAW team. What does that mean? I don't know.
2 million views on that video.
But what is it?
Posted by Ukraine Live. And then Alden down here said footage was filmed. It got geolocated. See, footage was filmed at western entrance to Ivankiv. Kyiv Oblast.
What's an oblast? Yeah, I'm not using OBS right now, though. I'll try to figure it out later. I changed the category to in real life from games, but I don't know if it changed on my broadcast. Did it? When I restarted?
Now, any of these videos, I mean, like, I can't verify that video. A bunch of accounts I follow who I think know what they're doing and try to be responsible have retweeted that. So I believe that video. So again, I can't 100% verify it. It looks legit to me, but again, everything's got to be taken with a grain of salt because it's a war.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll go back and try and figure it out. I'm pretty good with tech, but I don't know how to change that because
Trying to get more updates here. @Lookner on Twitter is where you can reach me. @Lookner on Twitter.
that's on the computer. Lookner, Steve Lookner, Agenda Free TV. In the USA? I'm in the USA. Steve Lookner, I think he's in the USA too. CNN has people on the ground.
Nexta is reporting. I'll see if I see this anywhere else. I don't know what a big deal this is. I don't know if this is a huge deal or not. They're saying Intel and AMD stopped supplying microchips to Russia. So I'll have to look up. I don't know how big a deal that is.
Facebook's not going to let Russia benefit from ads anymore on Meta, which is the new name
Kevin
for Facebook.
Rothrock. AMD and Intel, two of the biggest and most significant tech companies in the world, will reportedly cease all industrial sector deliveries to Russia. Now, again, I don't know how much of this stuff Russia uses. That's from Kevin Rothrock.
What time is it? Okay, 4:30. So 2:30 in the morning in Ukraine. Maybe they don't use much stuff from
AMD and Intel. Couldn't tell you.
How many people do you see having his broadcast? I don't see a number. And why doesn't it say live if it's live? Am I behind? I thought it was live. Let's see. Let me click on live.
Just said John is a good friend and highly knowledgeable on urban warfare. Check out his thread. So John Spencer says, so I've been asked what my advice would be to civilian resistors in Ukraine, especially in Kyiv, someone with no military training but wanted to resist. Here are a few things. You have the power, but you have to fight smart. The urban defense is hell for any soldier. It usually takes 5 attackers to 1 urban defense.
Dad turned to a woman he had never met and asked her to bring the children to safety. Armed with only a phone number and their backpacks, the three made it to the Hungarian border. It was there that they finally found the children's mother. The capital of Ukraine, Kyiv, is bracing for assault tonight. So far, at least 2 huge explosions have lit up the night sky as the Ukrainian people put their lives on the line to save their country. Join me now with more is Ambassador William Taylor, former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine. Ambassador, we're seeing this footage of the civilians taking up arms, stockpiling Molotov cocktails, standing in front of tanks, Russian tanks. Does this level of patriotism surprise you? What do you think?
And it's incredible how strongly the Ukrainians feel about their country. It is surprising to see that kind of intensity But we shouldn't be surprised. These people have been under pressure for 8 years of combat, but for generations they've been under the thumb of the Russians, and they've been out from under the thumb of the Russians for 30 years, and they don't want to go back in. They feel very strongly about their nation. They feel very strongly about their land. They'll stop. They'll stop the tanks. They will do whatever it takes. I'm very impressed with the Ukrainian people.
And one of the women interviewed by Clarissa Ward said, "Why should I leave? The Russians should leave." But at the same time, you can't blame these families desperate to get out of Ukraine with their children. I mean, it is just heart-wrenching, these images. What is your biggest concern for Kyiv right now as the government there warns of an imminent attack by Russia?
Then we have to be concerned that the size of the Russian forces could overwhelm the Ukrainian forces. The Ukrainian forces will fight hard. They will fight fiercely. They've got these Molotov cocktails that you saw. They've got weapons that have been handed out to people. So that a friend of mine took his family to the western part of the country where his father-in-law was, put them there, and then he turned around and went right back to get his weapon. It was ready. By the time he got back, man, his house was in no man's land between Russians and Ukrainians. He was walking around without all the equipment that he had to go. He's ready to fight. He is ready to fight.
You know what? He may have not had the equipment, but he had the will. And I think the will is such a key part of what we're seeing play out with these Ukrainians. If the Russians, and it seems as though, given the scale of the fight, the Ukrainians against the Russians, if they do take hold of Kyiv as we expect, how long do you think they could keep a hold of it if that does happen?
That's the right question, because they couldn't hold it. The Russians cannot hold it, and the reason they can't hold it is the Ukrainian people
will take it back.
Will be back in the streets. They will resist. They will reject a Russian rule. If the Russians try to put a puppet leader in there somehow, they will reject them. They will. The Ukrainian people. We've seen them go to the streets in 2004. They went back to the streets in 2014. They will be back again, and the Russians will not be able to hold Kyiv.
I think that is such a key point as we watch all of this unfold there in Ukraine. I want to ask you about looking ahead and what's been going on with punishment against Russia. There are these harsh economic sanctions against Russia and Putin personally. Are you concerned that Russia will retaliate against the U.S. with an attack of its own, like a cyber attack? I think a lot of people are wondering in the U.S., what does this mean for us? How should we prepare? How concerned should we be?
Or a nuclear attack.
I don't think that the Russians will dare to do a large cyber attack on the United States, because they know that we've got the capability to do it back to them, probably bigger. So there is a deterrent effect on cyber. There's a deterrent effect on information. There's a deterrent effect on a lot of these challenges that will keep the Russians in their place.
I'm going to go back really quick to the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, and he has just stayed there. The U.S. had offered to rescue him.
Because they're not going to let them take their country.
A captain who refuses to abandon his ship, using social media to get the word out to his people. What do you make of him?
And Pam, this same fellow that I mentioned who put his family and then came back to Kyiv and is now unable to get to his house, he said he is so proud to serve under that commander.
Wow.
He is so proud. He said all his comrades, same thing, that they are looking to this man as their leader. And this is a young politician. He's 43, former comedian. But he has stepped up, and he is a hero and is a leader for the Ukrainian people. People around the world now know who Vladimir Zelensky is, and they are very proud. You're right about him not leaving the country, not leaving the city.
He's not leaving. He is not jumping ship.
They offered to evacuate him, and he said no.
The loyalty and the respect of the Ukrainian people.
At a time when his life is seriously in danger. I mean, I think you can't sort of say that enough, how much his life is in danger.
He said he's the first target.
He is the first target. We've been getting viewer questions. I want to ask you this question from one viewer who said, why wasn't Ukraine better prepared for this onslaught?
Because they didn't believe they were going to get attacked.
This would happen. What do you say?
So there were two messages that had to get out to people. One was the urgency. This is a big problem. You got 120, 130,000 troops on your border. You need to get prepared. That was coming from the United States. The other message, though, was also necessary, and it came from President Zelensky, which was, we have to stay calm. We have to stay calm. If we're going to defend ourselves, we can't panic. We have to be resolved. So he emphasized the resolution, emphasized the not panic, emphasized the prepare, but prepare in a focused way. That was the message that he was trying to get. And you see on the streets now, there is a determination that's probably based on that calm that President Zelensky showed in the buildup.
Ambassador William Taylor, thank you.
Thanks, ma'am.
And we are following the breaking news as the White House and its allies expel several Russian banks from a vital global banking network. I'm going to talk about that with former Treasury spokeswoman Hagar Chamali up next.
Yeah, they kicked them out of. They kicked some of the banks out of SWIFT.
Therapies, we're inspired by our circle, a circle that includes our researchers, driven by our award-winning science.
No.
New medicines to treat mental illness. It includes the compassion.
Their tanks. Bombs under the road? You mean like landmines? I didn't see any landmines, but there's tanks.
And even change people's lives. Moving from mental illness to mental wellness.
The Russians have tanks.
In our circle. This is Intracellular Therapies. Mass General Brigham. When you need some of the brightest minds in medicine, this is the only healthcare system.
Oh wait, what is Luckner saying?
Anyways, you can read that about it's Ministry of the Interior Ukraine on Facebook.
Did not use what? The tanks have been like running over cars.
Man,
I saw two different.
I'm trying to find that post where the government told people to mess with the street signs. Trying to find the original post.
Like there was a tank that like ran over a car, but the guy like looked like the guy that was in the car seemed to be okay. And there was another tank that hit a car today. They just ran into the car.
Look, Christopher Miller. On the outskirts of Kyiv today, we witnessed several groups of people removing street signs that pointed in the direction of the capital. The point being, of course, not to show the Russian tanks the way in.
Well, that's smart. If they're too stupid to know the way to the city and they take off the signs and maybe they can't find the city.
Here it is. Oh, I found it. John Hudson. Here it is. Ukraine's armed forces just posted this message to the public. We disorient the enemy together. In order to confuse and disorient the enemy who is illegally moving in the roads of Ukraine, we call on the citizens to take the following initiative. 1. Remove signs with numbers and names of streets, towns, villages in the regions. We will do everything possible for the speedy cleansing of Ukraine from the Russian occupier. Please spread as much as possible. 2. There's others in there too. Ukraine's armed forces. I think I have I'll be able to find that too. I have that page too. Somebody says they don't just have GPS. Somebody had talked about it in the comments of one of those threads, and then somebody replied, well, even if it causes them like a little mistake, and I understand this, maybe the point might be that like even if it causes like a little confusion or something, it might actually help, or maybe it helps attack them or something like that. So, I'm guessing the military. I'm sure the military has their reasons for saying that. I don't think the Ukraine armed forces are like, oh wait, that's right. They have GPS. I guess we have to take down our post now. I'm sure there's actually some reason for doing it. I don't think they'd be bothering to telling people that, whatever the specific reason is. Oh, look at this one. I saw this too. This is Ukraine Armed Forces. Look, Facebook. Where is it here? I just had it. Where did it go? What happened to it? It was just here.
You're asking me? I have no idea.
There's a weird thing going on. I think there's something broken in Facebook. I'm having an issue with Facebook when I click on like see more on a post and then the post disappears. I think there's something wrong with Facebook. Try this again.
Let's see what Paul is saying about the sanctions.
To expand. And the sanctions also block Russia's non-military high-tech imports. The Western Alliance raised the stakes Friday with both the European Union and the U.S. announcing direct sanctions on Putin and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. President Biden has been blunt about the goals.
Putin is the aggressor. Putin chose this war. And now he and his country will bear the consequences. Putin's aggression against Ukraine will end up costing Russia dearly, economically and strategically. We will make sure of that. Putin will be a pariah on the international stage. And this is going to take time. And we have to show resolve so he knows what's coming. And so the people of Russia know what he's brought on them. That's what this is all about.
Hagar Chamali is a former Treasury Department spokeswoman. She's here to explain what all of this means. Hagar, expulsion from SWIFT was described as a nuclear option. Now they're moving forward with this. Tell us a little bit more about SWIFT.
So SWIFT is the good way to think about SWIFT is kind of like the WhatsApp of financial messaging. That's not my term. That's a term from my colleague at the Atlantic Council. SWIFT is a messaging system, and it is there to send secure information about transactions, right? So that a bank in the United States or a financial institution, if anybody abroad is sending a financial transaction here to the United States, the bank knows who's sending that money, the instructions related to that money, and so on. So that's what SWIFT is. It is purely a messaging system. Money doesn't actually go through it. But nearly all financial institutions use SWIFT in order to pursue those financial transactions. So the reason why cutting a country out of SWIFT, which by the way is not what was announced today, what was announced was cutting off certain Russian financial institutions from SWIFT. Right. And there's a reason. Yes, there's a reason that was so targeted. The reason that's a big deal is because we have a lot of trade with Russia. Europe in particular has a lot of trade with Russia, in particular for them with oil and gas. For us, it's related to fuel minerals, to iron and steel and platinum. These are things that are very important, obviously, to our industry. So they've obviously targeted the financial institutions where they can isolate them from the international financial system further. But it's clear they're trying to be surgical so as to limit the backlash on the U.S. and European economies.
And what could the backlash be?
Well, it depends. So if in Europe, for example, they import 40% of their oil and gas from Russia, and if all the Russian financial institutions with which they do business were to be isolated from SWIFT, then they would not be able to purchase that oil and gas, meaning they'd have to find another source immediately. Not only would they have to find another source, but they would have to set up the infrastructure to receive gas from other areas. Now, we know that countries like Germany and Italy, who import this gas the most, they are behind this move, right? That was a very clear announcement made today that this was united with our European partners and other partners around the world. But what that could do, if oil and gas were targeted, which I believe that from what I've heard from my government friends, is that they're trying to figure out ways to carve out, trying to figure out creative sanctions where perhaps Russia could continue selling its oil and gas, but perhaps not benefit from the proceeds of those sales. Those are the types of oil sanctions we had imposed on Iran. And the reason for that is to not cause global gas prices to skyrocket around the world. But that is something that could happen. In the United States, if we weren't able to import iron, steel, platinum, minerals from Russia, that would impact our manufacturing. And those businesses wouldn't be able to sell what they manufacture and jobs would be lost. So these are all things that the Treasury Department analyzes with economists, with folks at the Commerce Department and State Department, and they really try to be very deliberate in how they craft these sanctions to hit the target as much as possible and inflict financial pain without causing a backlash. But there will be some, I'm certain of some increase in prices. You'll see.
Can't hear you, Paula.
This is why you want farmers claim forgiveness.
All right, let's look near. They went to a commercial because she had no sound. Let's see what this
their
says.
country into ruin, they have to consider that their support for Putin will make them hunted war criminals for the rest of their lives. I've started to see this being discussed. Now, Putin has been in his absolute power there, and I would think he would have taken lots of measures to make sure that a lot of authoritarian leaders I know about Putin are very paranoid about somebody trying to take them out. So I'm sure this is something Putin thinks about, but it would seem to me I was saying this before the invasion that I said multiple times before the invasion, I was like, boy, I have to imagine there's a lot of people in Russia, like in the government and in the military, going like, we're really going to do this? Because it just seems so crazy. So I don't know if that's a realistic thing that there to think that someone might try to overthrow his rule or something like that, or do X, Y, or Z. I don't know, but even if I'm saying this, even if the military stuff was going better for Russia, I don't. As we talked about it extensively yesterday, I don't see what the long-term plan is here. To have this country of 44 million people who hate your guts and you're trying to occupy the country for forever, it doesn't really. It seems like this. I agree with people who say it was crazy of him to do this. It made no sense. So. Put it this way. This would be the kind of situation that if there was going to be a situation where people like took power from a leader, it'd be something like this. But maybe that's just not even possible there right now. Jazz King thinks Putin has made his bed. He can't come back from this. The scary thing is, again, though, what if he's just upset and what will he do next? What does he do next?
I have a call in 10 minutes.
Some people are saying not war crimes, Russia avoiding civilian casualties. Well, some civilians have been killed. That's happened, first of all. Second of all, I don't know enough about international law. I wouldn't be surprised if a war crime has already been committed just in invading a country that wasn't directly threatening you. There might be international law which calls that a war crime, where you just attack another country and you invade them and you start launching attacks on them
for no reason.
You were not in any kind of imminent threat. That in itself, again, I don't know enough about international law, so I don't know like what at the International Criminal Court, what would they try people for? Don't know, but that could be something else. But there's clearly civilians who've died in shelling and stuff. Doesn't mean that Russia is. There's other things Russia could be doing to kill more civilians if they wanted to. Very true, but there have been civilians who've died, and houses that have gotten blown, like civilian houses have gotten blown up and stuff like that. So, but again, I am not a specialist in international law. Thanks, Z Vasilyev, and everybody else for your support. I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Ukrainian courage as its smaller military, along with civilians, try to resist the overwhelming Russian invasion. I'm going to let these pictures speak for themselves.
That's the one that hit the apartment building. It says Ukraine's outgunned forces holding capital of Kyiv for third day. Kyiv.
The world has seen that Ukrainians are powerful. Ukrainians are courageous. They're on their native land, and they're never going to give up to anyone. They will never betray it.
The Ukrainians pronounce it Kyiv.
It is necessary for my family to leave Ukraine. I will stay here, but the main thing is for my family to leave Ukraine and not feel the threat of attack.
Explosions light skies near Kyiv.
We have a missiles attack, very loud blast, and absolutely disastrous picture around the Kyiv in the 21st century in the middle of Europe. Now, this is disaster.
I think Europe should help us and the whole world should help us. We should not be left alone with this.
Much more on the breaking news. Explosions lighting up the night sky in Kyiv. Plus, the White House and its allies make a critical move against Russian banks. Stay with CNN.
How would you describe him to people who don't know him? How
All right, I have a call in 6 minutes, and I can come back on after that, probably in an hour or two. But let's see what Lookner's saying for. Oh, I paused him till
Like you can see here, days ago, international law scholars Frederick Megritt and Kevin John Heller predicted that Putin would commit the war crime, the crime of aggression by invading Ukraine. I don't know the specifics on that. All right, let's get back here.
wow, someone gave him $100 for his coverage. $50, $10, $19.99. Because he's on Facebook.
It is almost 3 a.m. It's almost 3 a.m. Kyiv time.
Someone just gave him $49.99.
Oh, I wanted to mention the logistics thing. That's what I wanted to mention. We should talk about that.
Logistics.
Let me just check a couple updates here.
His name is Lookner, at Lookner, Lookner on Twitter. Should I put that in the chat on HAPS? I'll put it in the HAPS chat. At Lookner. That was spelled wrong. Let me try it again. At LOOKNER on Twitter.
Let me show you this also. I just saw this. Andrew S. Bowen says this is one of the best threads yet on the Russian invasion. Oh, I got to look up the see if Institute of Study of War put out an update today too. Got to look at that. This is one of the best threads yet on the Russian invasion and highlights several key aspects, especially logistics, that's supplying the army, lack of Russian air superiority and ground support, and Ukrainian success at maneuver defense. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll have to read this later, but I'm going to show you a couple things from it. From Major General Mick Ryan. My third set of observations, Major General Mick Ryan. I'm not familiar with him. There has been some online discussion from social media, but also from British Defense Department, about Russian logistical problems with supplies. The reality is that in any large-scale advance by land forces, logistics is always an issue.
Yeah, some of their tanks ran out of gas.
Bringing fuel, bringing spare parts. We train our combat forces to be aggressive in the advance and to exploit opportunities where they find them. Sometimes this means they outrun the logistics support of even the best military organizations. This will be part of why we are seeing armored vehicles out of fuel, like this widely shared video here. Another factor in logistics might be that the Russians weighed the invasion force in favor of combat